And you know how you want to get someone to spark a change? Listen to this, teachers. You know how I get someone to spark change in their own life? Allowing them to see the change in your own life.
Wow.
Allowing them to see the change in your own life, And so, I need to check myself on a regular basis, because if people are watching me, I've got to make sure I'm walking the right walk. I'm walking the right walk, because then they're going to see, oh, look, I've got an example. I've got an example right in front of me. And without an example, they can't see what they would like. Peter Fahad, once again, welcome back, my friend, to another book review. Chapter 6, on teaching to change lives.
Oh my, we're almost through it.
We're nearly done.
How many chapters have we got to go?
One more chapter to go.
Then we're done.
We're done.
Oh wow.
We've completed the book. But are we done? As teachers, Peter, are we done?
We're never done.
Hey?
We keep on teaching.
That's it, man. We've got to hold the floor. We've got to keep on going forward. That's excellent. Let's get stuck into it, Peter. Okay.
Right. What are we doing today?
Chapter 6, the law of encouragement, Peter.
Oh,
the
wow.
law of encouragement. Such an important one, I think. Encouraging and motivating. This chapter goes through, and it's quite an important one. I think
It's impacting.
it is. I think it's important because there's no doubt when you work with people or you're teaching, you got you people in front of you. It's all about motivation and encouragement and motivation. It's a high priority, I guess, when you're dealing with a whole range of people. So let's get started,
Let's
Peter.
go. Let's do
get
it.
started. Okay. Teaching tends to be the most effective when the learner is properly motivated, it says. Teaching tends to be the most effective when I'm motivated. This is quite an interesting chapter, but one that has so much importance when teaching, Peter. So much importance when teaching. I mean, the book starts off with encouragement. And encouragement is really trying to get the learner to take action. Encouragement is trying to get the learner to take action. And, when I just think about my own life or just encouragement, I put in perspective, like, how did that look for me? And how did that look for you? Like, could you think of, if I say, how were you encouraged, or just as a personal thing, how were you encouraged yourself personally, motivated or encouraged? What did that look like for you, or how does that look for you? Or has that ever happened to you? Can you think of anything in your own life?
Oh, good question. I suppose I can pinpoint a moment back when I was in my studies, and there was a teacher that used, words of affirmation. So I kind of remembered the way that he taught, and it always stuck with me. And that was probably about, 25, 26 years ago, I'm guessing, if not more. But I just remembered his teaching style because, when we were studying architecture and, we weren't very good to begin with. And I remember the first couple of lessons that he would do with us, he would just come across and say, hey, that's pretty good. And you know very well yourself that, it's kind of average, but he just knew how to encourage. And I suppose you never forget that. You can always pinpoint that moment in your life when somebody encouraged you. So, I don't know, what about you?
He was encouraging, it sounded like he was encouraging progress. He was encouraging the progress that you made. Look, for me, when I think about encouragement in my own life, I think, the most effective people that could encourage me or motivate me is, when I think about it, a person that has already built a relationship with me, someone that I can trust, and that I can feel, over time, I can feel that they haven't got an ulterior motive. They might be helping me or supporting me and do not want anything from me. My ears then tend to open up, and the words that they say then impact me a lot more. And then I get encouraged from that because I know he hasn't got any motive behind him. There's some truth. He just wants the best for me. The best motivation is when I feel like that you want the best for me and nothing else. So that's and then from there, just a couple of words of you're doing a good job. I'm proud of you. Just things like that, or this is what I think about when I think about encouragement that's happened in my own life. But we'll get stuck into encouragement. And I really want to talk about a little later. How do you self-motivate? How does someone motivate within themselves? And we'll get into that a little later. It's getting me a little bit excited. So here we go. So we'll continue. So the first one the book talks about is encouragement. Encouragement, okay? And then when I just looked up the dictionary meaning of encouragement, is the action of giving someone support, confidence, or hope. It's a dictionary meaning. Act of giving someone support, confidence, or hope. Praising someone could be a form of encouragement. If I, praise you, good job, or that could be a form of encouragement. But when praising, I've written down here, be specific. I think you could praise somebody, but the best form of praise isn't just like a good boy or good girl. Be specific with your praise. I am very happy with the way you're writing in long form, or I'm very happy on the way you've completed your work. Be specific with your praise.
Well, okay, I get it. That's quite interesting.
Yeah.
I suppose one that comes to my mind, one that I like to use in a church format, is when you kind of walk up to somebody in the corridor and you kind of say, "How you going?" And they tell you, "Yeah, good, not bad. I've had a tough week." Well, what did you have a tough week about? And they kind of give you the gist of what affected them that week, and then you tell them, "Well, you know what? I'm going to pray for you throughout the week." Now, people say that to you and they forget it, and you never hear anything back, from them again. But the one thing that I like to do is to actually pray for them, right?
Yeah.
And then come back the next week and just walk up to them. "Hey, by the way, I've been praying for that situation that you encountered last week. Just wanting you to know that, I've been offering some prayers for you."
Yeah.
You know what? That goes such a long way with people. I think that's a form of encouragement when they realise that people are in tune with your needs.
Yeah.
Imagine doing that with a student in a class.
Yeah. Yeah.
Imagine, focusing on a student. "How was your week?" "Well, I had a tough time at this." "Well, you know what? I'm going to pray for you." And then you come back the next week and you just kind of remind them, "Hey, I believe God's going to be doing the work in your life." And I think there's such power in doing little things like that.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Yeah, and then I think there's exactly what I think. I think there's value in being specific with your praise and being specific with your encouragement. I think it goes a lot further, and being specific with your encouragement and your praise. But so that's praise. Praise is a form of encouragement. There's no doubt about it. And so the next one the book talks about, and I've written all this down on teaching to change lives. The next one is motivation. And let's talk about motivation for a bit.
Let's go for it.
Yeah. And so there's two types of motivation the book writes. It's very simple. There's the right and the wrong type of motivation is what it says.
Okay.
Let's have a look at that. The right and the wrong type of motivation. And first it speaks about the wrong type of motivation is lack of application. They weren't encouraged to apply themselves. That's the wrong type of motivation. So if you weren't encouraged to apply yourself, come on, you can do better than that. I want you to work hard, or that's a wrong type of motivation when there's a lack of allowing or telling kids to apply themselves. That's the wrong type. Yeah.
Can we break that down a little further?
Yeah, go.
Reading the book, he gives a really good example, which kind of stuck in my mind, where he talks about a lollipop type of motivation. In other words, this is where you say to your child, "Hey, son, behave yourself in church this morning, and I'll buy you a lollipop, or I'll buy you an ice cream."
Sure.
So I guess that kind of motivation
What's
is the
that?
wrong type of motivation. Or if you memorize your verses,
that's like bribing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And if you memorize a certain amount of verses, and you do well in Sunday school, then we'll go out for dinner that night. Now, look, I suppose there's a fine line. You want a reward, but if that child only receives some kind of some form of bribery every time they need to do well, what do you think about that?
I think that there's a fine line. So if you've got a reward for me, if you mention the reward before the actual effort and the work is done, that's bribing. If it is after the work has been done and effort has been taken, that's encouraging.
Okay, good.
Do you know what I'm saying to you? Yeah, that's encouraging.
That's good.
Before, if there was no effort, that's bribing, in my opinion. But there'll be encouragement if it happens. If I'm happy with you, you know what? You showed a lot of effort, and you knew there was nothing. There was nothing on offer. And then I said, because you did this, I'm so proud of you. Here you go. I've got a reward for you.
Wow.
What happens? What happens then? I think the other students will see that. Wait, this guy, this teacher, this whoever's up front rewards effort. He rewards effort. Guess what happens in there? Guess what they're going to do? They're going to be driven by what they just saw, by them knowing that you reward the effort.
Well, here's the funny thing. We kind of use that in Sunday school now.
Yep.
Call it right or wrong.
Yep.
But Brendan would testify to this. You know, we have a segment where we do sword drills.
Yep.
And then, you know, if you're the first one to find that verse, then you get rewarded with what, Brendo? Chocolate. You know, and it works to have a bit of fun. So what does that do? That kind of gets people motivated, right?
Gotcha.
And that student that doesn't usually get motivated kind of spikes an energy in them to think, you know, I can actually do this. And if they're just sitting there quietly and they find the verse, they can't help but get up and say, yeah, I've got it.
Gotcha.
Even though Brendan takes it out every single time. I mean,
good on you, Joe.
But, you know, can I just make a statement while you're on that?
Yeah.
You know, I kind of came across this one line in the book, and he reads, and it says this. He goes, so doing good things does not ensure good results. It's all determined by motivation.
Sure.
It's all determined, and we'll rephrase it a bit, by the right motivation.
Sure.
You've got to be careful what you're creating in a child.
Gotcha.
Be in tune with it.
Gotcha. Okay, so the next type of wrong motivation is guilt. Don't keep piling the guilt higher and higher to get them to take action. Don't guilt them because they're not doing something. Don't keep piling higher and higher and higher to get them to take action. That's a wrong type of motivation. Is putting guilt on them. I know what you're thinking, Peter. A little bit of
guilt.
A little bit is okay.
Yeah.
But what it's saying is don't keep piling on and on. If you have to keep piling on and on and on, guess what? There's something underneath the surface that you have to deal with.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, I agree.
But I know a little bit of guilt. I know where you're headed.
You straightened me up there.
Yeah.
I was starting to get a little bit edgy when you were saying that.
Yeah.
Because, you know, sometimes...
And I'm just saying this is what the book's reading. We're reviewing this book, don't forget.
Yeah,
so we're just pulling that out.
It's not our own thoughts.
Well, a lot of it is.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right. No, I'm happy with that because there's those moments in time where you got to say to a student, hey, listen, if you're not going to do your memory verses, if you're not going to partake, at the end of the day, I have to let your parents know.
Gotcha.
You know, but I don't want that to be the form of motivation that child needs to rely on.
Yeah.
But what do? You got to kind of spark it up here and there and just remind them that, you know what, you do have a responsibility coming to class to fulfill your homework.
Gotcha.
I mean, these are spiritual matters.
Gotcha.
Things pertaining to God. And we've got to emphasize to them that it's really important to push forward with the things of God, because if you don't do that from an early age, what respect are you going to have for the things of God when you're older, Bob?
100%.
You won't take, and that's why you'll get people that aren't motivated for the things of God, but when it comes to their personal work, guess what? They're spending hours in the office because to them that's important. So it does kind of start from an early age. I think that's got to be trained into the child.
Yeah, I like it. Just a little bit of guilt. Let them know that, you know, there's a line here, and that you might be crossing the line. So stay on the other side. We encourage you to stay on the other side.
I just love putting guilt on my kids.
What?
No,
Keep piling it up. No, you're not. All right. The third one here is being deceitful with values hope, saying all your problems will disappear. That's the wrong type of motivation. That's the wrong type of motivation.
Do we do that as Christians, though?
Well,
when we're bringing new Christians to the fold, do we say, for example, hey, if you come to God, God will get rid of all your problems?
No, we shouldn't. I don't know if people do. We shouldn't, because I know that, you know, God's plan is not your plan, and if it be God's will in your life, then might be God's will in your life. I know from my own personal walk that God's will in my life allowed me to struggle and fall sometimes. He had lessons for me. He wanted me to go through different pockets and periods where I needed to struggle, because he needed to sharpen and build me up in certain areas. And so I might look at that, if I didn't have an understanding that this is God's will for me right now, then I'll be like, oh, why is he giving me all these problems for? Why? Like I cried out so many times, like get this thing to stop, or whatever it was.
But do you think God sharpened you through that process?
Peter, only through those times were the biggest growth in my life.
There you go.
They were the biggest growths in my life. So I personally would never say all your problems will go away, because I know that, if you're in God's will, there's different seasons for different reasons.
Yeah,
Do you like that, Peter? Different seasons for different reasons?
Mate, I love the one-liners that you always come up with. When are you going to write a book, man?
Hey, that's it, tonight.
Tonight? I reckon you can rewrite history. But you know what? I think, having said that, Bob, it is the wrong form of motivation when we try to lead people to Christ. And I think it has been said to people where, they turn around and they kind of throw that comment out there and say, hey, if you come to the Lord, He'll deal with all your problems. I mean,
1 second. He could deal with all your problems if it be His will.
Yes.
In your life.
And I think, even the author states is, be careful what you promise, what the scriptures don't promise.
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, so in other words, I suppose we just got to try and show them that as Christians, we have the tools, and God does give the tools to overcome your problems. Look, I look at that from my children's perspective when they've had some major issues in their life. I don't shield them from the fact that there's going to be problems. I just kind of remind them, hey, the scriptures will show you how to battle through them, because you're not the only one. If you read the scriptures, I guarantee you the issue that you're having today in our society are the same problems that were encountered in the book of the scriptures. It's just, how do you deal with it? Well, let me show you how this particular person dealt with.
Gotcha.
I found the minute I did that with my children, they learned to gain so much faith in the Bible.
Gotcha.
Just putting it out there.
Yeah, love it. Good. A lot of value in that, Pete.
That's motivation, though, for them. The right motivation, I'd say.
So saying all your problems will disappear is what the book is saying is the wrong type of motivation. So there's the right type of motivation, Peter, must capture and direct their ability and energy. The right type of motivation is saying here, it's just one here. It needs to capture and direct their ability, and energy. So that's the right type of motivation. I mean, in my opinion, like for myself, this is only my opinion. There's two ways to get people to take action. In my opinion, you can make them do something by force, get people to take action, or you can make them want to do something. You can make them want to do something. One, the first one, make them do something, is done by control. But if I want to make you do something, I have to have control over you.
That's bad parenting.
Well, that's bad parenting.
And that's bad teaching.
Bad teaching. If I make you want to do something, like what that says, it speaks about a relationship that I have with you. And a relationship that I have with you then says, you know what, I want to do it, not because you made me, it's because I want to. It's because that bond that I have with you, that relationship I have with you, I want to please you. I want to see that, I want to do the right thing by you. Relationship. So there's by force, and there's by relationship.
So wouldn't it be great if you say to your eldest child...
Why are you asking and smiling at the same time? Why you get a statement?
Not
Where
because
you
one of your children are present with us at the moment.
You're about to throw your kid under the bus.
But wouldn't it be great to say to your child, I'm a little bit thirsty, and they turn around to you and say, Dad, can I get you a glass of water? How good would that motivation be?
Mate, that's relationship. It talks to
relationship. I don't know about you, Bob, but that happens in my family.
Does it?
No, not really, but anyway.
Mate, you're on the spirit.
Abby still does it for me.
Abby? So you got one, man?
Daddy, I'm so thirsty. Daddy, I'll get you a glass of water. Let's see how long now.
Until Daddy, I need, then I want.
Yeah, I want, and she's already doing it, but anyway.
How much does it cost?
How much does it cost?
I love it. All right, we'll move on, Peter. Continue. The next point here is awareness of need. Awareness of need. 2 levels of motivation, the book says here. There's 2 levels of it. There's, I'm going to get this word out. There's extrinsic motivation, coming from the outside. And there's intrinsic motivation, which comes from the inside. So extrinsic comes from the outside, and there's intrinsic motivation. And I know for myself, I've got a lot of intrinsic motivation. Okay, and we'll get to that. Your task as a teacher, in all extrinsic motivation, is to trigger the intrinsic motivation within the person.
I like that.
So your task as an
As a
outside
teacher.
is to trigger the inside.
So you got to motivate the child so that
Yeah.
that child starts reflecting that motivation. Okay.
Within, for me, personally, it needs to be a goal that I can now visualize, that I can see, that motivates me. For me personally, what gets me going, if you're from the outside, you have to trigger and create. I have to have a goal that I'm reaching towards, and that I can strive towards. So if your external motivation needs to trigger me to reach a goal, to complete something, to reach a goal, okay, and that goal has to be mine, so I can visualize it, internalize it, and now you can leave me alone, and I've got something that I'm striving towards.
So you've been given a task, in other words, and been entrusted to fulfill that task?
Correct. Okay. That task, and that, yeah.
So that's a motivator.
Yeah, and that motivates me. That motivates me personally. If you give me a task and give me so now I have a goal to achieve, no one has to come and tell me hurry up or go. If I've got a task and that goal that I achieve, now I've got something to work towards.
You know, I want to just testify to that comment that you made, just to give it a bit of backing.
Yeah.
You know, even in our workplace, I noticed sometimes when we're leading people, we tend to spoon feed them.
Sure.
What I did notice is there's no motivation behind that, the workload that they're producing. The minute we entrusted them and gave them a task and said, you know what, you go and deal with it, we don't want to know anything about it.
Now they took an ownership.
It was ownership, and a different level of motivation started to occur.
Sure.
And I found, as a management tool, it's the only way to lead a team is by entrusting them, letting them see that you've got trust in them.
Sure.
The same way goes when we're teaching our kids or our students. Entrust them that they can use their ability to produce the goods.
So how then do we get the kids that we're teaching to take ownership of their work? That's what you've just said. You've said, say, your employees, you know, that there was a different level of motivation when they took ownership of their work.
Okay.
How do we get the kids, and something to think, how do we get the kids to take ownership of their work so they become self-driven to achieve their, you know, to finish the task?
Well, I'll look at it from a work perspective.
Yeah.
Hey, this is what you need to accomplish.
Yeah.
But this is the outcome that I need. You sort it out.
Gotcha. And so, okay, that's fine.
So you might give them a budget, in other words.
Sure.
For argument's sake,
sure.
Just to give an example, you might say, hey, I need X amount of dollars by the end of the week.
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to leave you and see what you can do to try and achieve that budget.
Gotcha.
And just anything. I'm just giving an example right now. But
I think that, you know, I'm thinking back at teaching now. You could tell me you need to finish this, and I'll be like, whatever. You know, not interested. I'm still not interested. But if you can give me a task and tell me, explain to me, or get me to feel the matter of importance of the task, how much value that I need to put into there. Let me take ownership and value it. Then that's going to motivate me a lot more. That'll motivate me a lot more, because you know, to get me to want to care about that task. To get me to want to care about it, you know, get the children to want to care about that task. That really gets me thinking. That really gets me thinking, because you need to be able to motivate the kids to want to care about the task.
Well, here's another.
It goes back to make the learning theirs. Talk about things that they care about. That's happening in their world. We spoke about that before.
You know what? Yeah, good point. Because I was going to just jump on the back of that statement. And I know we've kind of spoken about this in the past, but a good way...
We can refresh.
Yeah. And a good way to motivate your students is don't be afraid to share the failures of your life. And you turn around to me and say, well, how would the failures of your life motivate that student? Well, I'll tell you how. When they see you that you're not invincible, when they see, hold on, their Sunday school teacher wasn't always a Christian, you know what, they'll look at that and they'll realise, well, hey, I don't have to hide myself so much or try to portray that I'm somebody that I'm not, and they can be real about it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, are you saying that's a good motivator? Is that a
Yeah,
good
I think so, because I think when you kind of put yourself out there and they say, well, hold on, this is who he really is, that will motivate them to share their experiences, to open up and to realize you don't have to be perfect.
Gotcha.
But we can strive to become more Christ-like, throughout our days.
Gotcha. So are you saying that, or, what I'm thinking about is that there's an internal dialogue that happens within a child, right? And that if they get a sense that they can't achieve something, or this is too hard for me, or I can't do something, in their mind, this workload becomes such a mountain, or so big that they will then not put any effort into doing their work. By default, they'll say, I can't do this. I'm never going to be as good as this. I can't achieve this. But what you're saying is that when you see that, hey, my teacher that I'm looking up to has actually struggled as well, and he's gone through it, he's like, okay, I don't feel so bad. This mountain doesn't become so big anymore, and then that will help me overcome that little hurdle that I'm facing in my head and get me to move towards doing the work a lot more.
Spot on. I mean, we've used it in our class. I've used it. I know Michael, when he's teaching with me, he tends to share a lot of life stories that he's experienced, where he's failed, the victories, and then and I think when the students see that, because we teach the teens, and you can kind of come to them at an adult level to some degree.
Gotcha.
And once they kind of see that, that you failed in some parts of your lives, they start to understand that this is real, and that as Christians, we're not perfect.
Gotcha.
And I think that is a form of motivation when you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's a lot of value in that, mate. Letting people see the good and the bad. Letting people see.
What other points have you got for us,
Peter? Let me just piggyback off that and just continue. In my opinion, and I've written down here, the best motivation is progress. Get the children to finish a task that is achievable. Okay? Get them to finish a task that is achievable. Once you've achieved a task that's achievable, it builds a sense of accomplishment. There's no doubt you feel good about yourself. You have a sense of accomplishment. And that sense of accomplishment builds confidence.
Okay.
No doubt. In their ability, and then that encourages them to want to do and apply themselves more.
Wow.
So it's like a cycle. Like a cycle. If you give me enough to complete, I've got a sense of accomplishment. And there's no doubt that I get perked up. Wow, I completed it. I finished. What's next?
I can do this.
Yeah, and it becomes a cycle. So, set tasks. The best motivator is progress. Allow the children to progress, or feel like there is some progression. If they feel like, I'm never going to finish this is too hard, or you're demotivated, you're not going to get encouraged. Your energy levels are going to...
And if they're struggling through it, you help them along and encourage them.
Yeah, you say, look, you did that, great, bye-bye. Progress is what I'm saying. So that's another type of motivation, is progress.
Okay, good.
Yeah, and that happens to you in your life as well. Here we go here. Apply themselves. You want them to do what they do, not because you asked them or twisted their arm, but because they themselves have chosen to do it. Okay. One of the best ways to trigger this choice is to help the learner become aware of his need.
Okay. Explain that to me.
Wait up. Your method in reaching should be exposing your students' real life experiences. Peter, explain what to you?
Explain to me, by showing them what they need.
Showing them what they need. Well, I only can show them what they need is when I understand possibility of, or possible things that are happening in their world, or at their level, or so understanding them in their world, and then getting them to see that the needs that they need at that time, at their level in their world. So I don't, I can't think of any example. Have you got any examples?
Well, I'll give you the example he used in the book.
Yeah.
You've probably forgotten it.
Yeah. But it has to be their needs, basically what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
yeah. Well, look, let's just give one example.
Yeah.
I mean, as a teacher, you can always be in tune with your students and determine what their needs are and address it.
Yeah.
Because sometimes the student doesn't understand what their need is. For example, in this particular...
Peter, you know, it's hard, but in order for me to show you what your need is, I've got to maybe allow you to see your failure or where you failed. Because if I don't show you where you failed or where your failure is, you're not going to see a need.
Okay.
So that could be allowing them, showing them where their failures are or where they're falling short.
Well, let's look at it.
Go.
This particular student, when his teacher asked him, can you preach? He goes, I've got no problems in preaching.
Gotcha.
I'm just summarising here.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, in that case, I've got a luncheon or a banquet that I'd like you to come and speak to with a bunch of businessmen. There'll be a few hundred men there. Would you be all right to give a 3-minute testimony? And he goes, sure. So in the following week, he rocks up to the banquet or whatever it was, and he began to give his testimony. But when he stood before all these men or businessmen or whoever they were,
like
he started to realise it was like a deer stuck in headlights, you know what I mean? So he started to get really nervous before this crowd, and he started to mumble, and the 3 minutes turned to 9 minutes, and then he came off, and then the teacher kind of said to him, he goes, would you like me to show you how to do more public speaking? He goes, you know what, I really do think I need it.
He saw his failure.
He saw his failure.
Gotcha.
It's just exactly what you said.
Yeah.
So I think, you know, it's really good when you come across a student that cannot see the need.
Yeah. Are you saying allow them to see their need? Not allow them to crash and burn, but allow them to see their need.
Sometimes, as harsh as it is, it's okay to let them crash and burn. I've got no problems with letting my students crash and burn.
Best teacher.
If they don't get a taste for failure, then how are they going to succeed?
Bro, you can talk to your blue in the face. If they can't see it for themselves, then you can talk to your blue in the face.
And how wrong would it be for us to build up false hope to them? You can do anything. Sorry, you got to work at it. And there's got to be moments where you fall. You know what I mean?
100%. Good. I like that. Get them to see the need is what we're saying. So we'll move on to the next point here in the book, Peter. Good training. Good training. You remember 10% of what you hear? We've spoken about this before.
Yes.
50% of what you see and 90% of what you do. You motivate people by correctly structuring their training experiences. Training involves 4 stages. The telling stage, the showing stage, and stages 3 and 4 involve doing. First in a controlled situation, then in an uncontrolled situation. Real life situations. So you got to structure their training experiences, Peter. You got to. But the first one is telling stage, showing them how to do it, and then involving them. And it says there's 2 types of involvements: one in a controlled way and one in an uncontrolled way. So maybe allow them to do, allow them to do something in a situation where it's still under your umbrella, where you can control that, and now you can let them go. The second stage is now they've got to think on their feet for themselves without you there.
Okay. All right. So
we're talking about training. Yeah.
All right. So you can push the boundaries in a classroom format where you can try and push them to the point where they can possibly fail.
Yeah.
And then building them up from there, rather than them experiencing that in the outside world and being discouraged. Is that what you're saying?
I think so. I don't know if I'm saying that, but I'm saying that when you get to the telling stage and showing stage, you allow them to do in front of you. You allow them to do under your guidance, for example. And so the next stage for them, like in the doing stage, they'll be doing under your guidance and under your in a controlled situation. And there will be a time where they're unguided, where now they've got to critically think for themselves. They've got to do, but without no guidance, basically.
Okay. I like that.
It's the next step.
And I think the older they get, in a classroom format, I think it's important to kind of push them.
Sure.
to push them to the point where, you know, they're going to be really challenged.
Yep.
And if they fail, it's okay to fail in a classroom format.
Yep.
I mean, better off in there than in the outside world.
Yep.
So it's okay to give them that training.
Yeah.
That's encouraging, I think, to some degree.
Yeah.
Because when they come out of it and you kind of teach them the right way after that, it makes them more motivated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Just thinking out aloud. I don't know.
No, I think so. And so there's different stages of training. Like some things to think about. Some things to think about. We'll move on. The book reads, I've never heard, listen to this, I've never heard of a correspondence course in swimming. Like by correspondence, you know. Or by watching the pros go up and down the pool. Never heard of a course like that. Okay? You've got to get wet.
You've got to do it.
You got to do it. You know what I mean? I'm not going to develop as a swimmer by reading a book or watching a video. Okay, I've got to get in the pool and actually and swim. So that's that. Another mark of good training is giving people responsibility with accountability. Make them accountable.
Yes, we spoke about that.
Give them responsibility with accountability. Yeah.
We touched base.
Yeah. And so we want the learning to become theirs. We want to give them goals. We want them to see the need. We want them to see their own need, and we want to spark intrinsic motivation, internal motivation. So things to think about. Wow. The importance of a teacher, man. It's crazy. I love it. Teacher, leader, motivator, you know. Look, if we're moving forward, you get to a certain stage, you know, I don't know what stage you're at, we get to a certain stage in life is that you want, you know, by default in me, I want to nurture. I want to show you that you can, I want to encourage you. I want to show you that your life matters. You know, I want to touch and motivate someone that's younger than me moving forward, you know. There's so much value in that, mate. There's so much value in that. And you know, just the right words. If just the right words can penetrate for life. The right words. And, you know, I've said it before, just being present in someone's life, allowing them to know that you see them and that you value them, and you want, most importantly, do not want anything from them. That's the most important thing is, when I can feel that from you, then I could say anything and you could just drop it and motivate. And I think, you know, if you can impact the next generation, I think, you know, we've done our job.
Do you still remember those teachers which were impacting in your life?
Yeah, I do. I mean, I still remember, I'm not going to say a name, but I thought, you know, I wasn't very clever when I was in school, and I thought, you know, not me. Look at this head. And then I thought she was my English teacher. Yeah. I thought, what do I have to worry for? If I ever got a problem, she used to help me out a lot. So if I ever had a problem, I'll just go back and call call my teacher. I thought when I was an adult, I could just call on my teacher. She could help me anytime, because she really, I felt like that she really cared, and she was really concerned about me, developing and doing the work correctly. And I felt like she genuinely cared. Do
you think she'd be proud of you today, Bob?
I'm still working on it, Peter. I'm still working.
But see, that's the point right there. Yeah. You know, and I want to be remembered.
Yeah.
You know, as that Sunday school teacher that taught him the Bible.
Yeah.
There's no greater honor than having taught God's word and they've remembered the scriptures that you've brought to light in their lives.
Yeah. You feel like that you've done the right thing. Yeah.
Because that's our job at the end of the day, Sunday school teachers, isn't it?
Yeah, 100%. It's all about developing them and the knowledge of the scriptures and getting them to spark a change in their life, getting them to take action in their life. Ultimately, otherwise, you know, what are we doing? And you know how you want to get someone to spark a change? Listen to this, teachers. You know how I get someone to spark change in their own life? Allowing them to see the change in your own life.
Wow.
Allowing them to see the change in your own life, you know. And so, I need to check myself on a regular basis, because if people are watching me, I've got to make sure I'm walking the right walk. I'm walking the right walk, because then they're going to see, oh, look, I've got an example. I've got an example right in front of me, And without an example, they can't see what they would like, to be like, as to lead them to Christ when they see it in you. So your walk, there's no doubt, speaks higher than your talk. That's that. It's a little bit deep for the teachers there.
That's getting quite deep. That takes us down another path. I don't know if we want to go there, Bob.
But that's it. But it's something I had to say, I guess.
Okay.
The personal touch. Here we go. Okay, last few points here. The personal touch. When you're teaching, has the learner's name written all over it. When he sees that, in effect, his name occurs throughout the book, and it's personal. Basically, when you're teaching, it's personal. When you personalize it, when it's personal, it will make a bigger difference in his level of motivation. Okay, his level of motivation. Be willing to flow into people's lives. You will have a greater potential to spark an internal change. Okay, get the teaching intrinsic. Get it about them. Involve them. Get the teaching involved and let it coincide in their own lives. Like, let them see that this teaching is taking effect. Involve them. Do
you mean like when you're teaching a topic, personalize it to their age group?
100. Yeah, and maybe even to the group that's in front of you.
Okay.
To age group and the group that's in front of you.
Yeah,
so think about that as a personal touch, just to spark.
Because that works, right?
Of course it does, and it's all part of motivating and encouraging. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
When I need to take ownership of this learning. That's all part of taking ownership of the learning. Everyone, no exceptions, can be motivated to learn. Well, everyone can be motivated to learn, but not all at the same time.
Oh wow!
Okay, and not all by the same person.
Yes.
Okay, not all by not all the same way. Not at the same time, not by the same person, not all by the same way. I love when the Bible says that he that planteth, he that watereth is nothing, but God gives the increase. So that just, I think about that sort of verse when I think about you're the one that could be planting the seed. You're the one but the seed, you might just be the seed planter right now. Your offsider or someone down the track could, because of that seed that was planted, okay, he could be the one to help it grow, water it, for example. A few words of encouragement, whatever it is. So basically, what I think it's saying is that not everybody's growing at the same time, okay. But you might not see the fruits of your labor right now, but you're part of you're part of the plan. You're part of the steps. You could either be a seed planter, you could be a waterer, okay, and you might not see the growth. And that's okay. That's okay. But there will be no growth if you don't plant that seed. You might not see it, but your seed planting is vital to any growth at all. So there's different levels to it. So that's things I think about.
I'll take that.
Yeah, that's things I think about. So the timing is crucial. Teaching is the assembling of a time bomb in a classroom. Okay, teaching is marked for explosion at a later date and in a different location. That's why you need to walk by faith to be a good teacher, and you need a lot of patience. Exactly what I just said there, Pete.
Yeah.
Okay, they're gonna get it. They might get it. They might not right here, right now, at a later stage. You've shared many examples with me where you thought a child was not getting it because you've taught in Sunday school for a little bit now. You thought they wouldn't get it. You thought they didn't get anything out of this lesson, and then a few years down the track,
many years down the track, a Sunday school student was getting married.
Sure.
That's how many years.
Wow, there
Does
you
that
go.
tell you how long we've been teaching for?
There you go. Well, you have, mate. You're just a veteran in this thing.
I'm only 23 years of age, mate.
Yeah, only 23.
23.
What, between your ears or? But it's great to see, is what I'm saying. It's great to see that, and it just it coincides with what we're talking right now. You might not see the growth, but your seed planting and your watering is vital, because the growth might not happen in front of you.
Yeah.
But your job, I'll say to you, your job, there's value in that job, and it's important for any growth for you to do your planting and your watering.
And I do believe as a teacher, and I say this to all teachers, if you are genuine and you have a desire to teach God's word, and your motive, if I could say, is pure in that respect, I do believe God will give you snippets of, the impact that you've been on certain individuals. I know God's done that for me, especially with that example that you brought forward, that student that never reciprocated in class, never raised their hand, never said burn. I thought, man, I can't get through to this child.
Yeah.
This child is difficult.
But your lessons came out when they were getting married.
But then when they were married, they pull out this document that I gave them many years ago when I was teaching them on, on courting. And, she was saying to the person she was going to marry, like, I've already learned about this particular topic. And, he was the one that came and approached me and told me that. And I thought, that's hilarious.
That's
just...
Praise God, brother. That's what that is. Yeah. That's what it is.
I was rejoicing. I thought, wow, when you least expect it, pow.
Yeah. That's the point we're making here, Peter. And
thank you, Lord.
That's the point we're making here. You might not see the growth, but your steps, your stages in the steps is vital.
But you know what? Let me just add to that. How many times have you seen a testimony, and then when they're giving the testimony before they get baptized, they refer back to those teachers that taught them, and that one particular thing that they said to this student that triggered, a spiritual move in their life.
Yeah.
They encouraged them to take the next step.
Yeah.
It happens all the time when you're seeing these young people getting baptized. And you know what? I just stand back and I think, that's good.
Yeah. And words can trigger. That's what you're saying. Words can trigger.
At that right time, I mean... Hey, and majority of these testimonies is always triggered by someone saying something to them. Yeah. That's encouragement right there.
100%. And with me, like I said before, I'll go on another step. For me personally, words and walk, for me is what's kept me on track. When someone's had some words to say to me, to keep me on track, but plus me seeing their walk. If there was just words coming out their mouth and their walk was
that's damaging.
It's damaging. There's no doubt it's damaging. But what's kept me sort of striving to move forward is, along the merry way, people's, motivate, their words that they've used to encourage me, plus coinciding with their walk. Then I'm like, okay, I'm moving at the same time.
Especially to kids, bro. I think back as a teacher, you could be encouraging in a classroom environment. The minute you say something derogatory outside, they never forget it.
Yeah.
You know what?
Unfortunately,
they just won't forget. And all those years of hard work is undone by one silly comment. We've got to be conscious of that too.
100%, man. You got to check yourself consistently. All right, we'll move on. Nearly done. Creative motivation. Once you get to know your students, let them get to know you, and then build creatively on that knowledge. Once we want to sort of once they get to know you, once you know your students, build on that and motivate them creatively. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So once you have an understanding of them, you know what their likes are, you know what their interests are, and then create a learning environment that coincides with your group of students that you have right there and there. You know what I mean? What worked maybe with another group of students might not work with this group of students. So get to know your students so that way you can create. And
let them get to know you.
Yeah, there's no doubt, 100%.
Is it all right to share with them your weaknesses and your strengths?
We spoke about that before. Yeah. It's very important. There's value in that because they can see that you've struggled too. So when they're struggling with something, they're not going to be discouraged and default into retracting and not moving forward in their faith or in their learning, because they've seen that you have struggles too, and that makes them feel better and continue moving forward. Cool. God motivates people in different ways. You need to be creative and use a variety of methods. Take teenagers, for example. It's written here.
Okay.
We can't get these kids excited about the Word of God, I hear. Our problem is that we aren't willing enough to put our creative hooks into the areas of their interest and abilities. If something is not working, help them develop alternatives.
Okay.
If you can't get them motivated, saying here, we can't get them motivated and they can't, get them to help develop alternatives. Like, work together to develop alternatives. Think outside the box. Think outside the box. And, different teachers at different stages might have different struggles in different rooms. A lot of difference there. So create alternatives within the room. Work together. Understand your students.
Could one way,
don't just say they're not getting it. They're not getting it.
Yeah. If they're not getting it, then it's your problem as a teacher. But what about tackling the issues that age dynamic is experiencing? Talk about those issues, relate them to the scriptures, and I'm sure that will spark some kind of motivation within them to kind of want to take what's being taught and kind of run with it.
Yeah, and so by doing that, Peter, I think it's vital. There's value in that. So before it sparks motivation, it'll perk up the ears. It'll get them to listen first. You know what I mean? Before I can motivate you, I've got to get you to listen. And by talking about some things that are happening in their world at this time, my ears open up before I can move to the next stage of motivation.
And that's that hook. Is that what they said, the motivational hook?
Yeah, I think it'd be the motivational. Just how do you hook them in? How do you bring them in? You got to get their ears to perk up. Talk about what's happening in their world, and then from that you'll be able to open up the door to be able to allow them to be motivated.
And you can sometimes trigger off a debate when it comes to teens. It's so funny. You bring up a topic, and then you trigger off a debate.
Hey, do you think a debate is not so much a debate like we're going back and forth, but like do you reckon that's helpful within a teens class?
Oh, I do, yeah, absolutely. Because you're challenging each side to think.
And they're thinking.
And they're thinking and they're talking about it and they're coming to a resolution.
And so they're engaged.
Absolutely.
So they're engaged and their learning becomes theirs. Wow, I like that. So sparking debates in question answer between themselves. So what do you think? What's your answer? Sure.
I've done a bit of that in the past.
I think it's got to be controlled in the right way, though.
Oh yeah. And it was. And at the end, I made them come to the conclusion together.
You made them come together at the end with a resolution. Yeah, good stuff. All right, on the final stretch here, Peter. The power unleashed, one of the points there, power unleashed. Question, how do you get people motivated? Answer, are you motivated? Because motivated people become change agents.
Oh, I like that. Wow.
How do I motivate you?
Become motivated.
You become motivated.
So if I'm motivated, I become a change agent.
Correct. I can spark a change in you. But if I'm not motivated, like that's deep. That's only really small, but that's deep.
I'm going to try and remember that.
Yeah. Motivated people become change agents. Motivated people become motivators.
Yeah, wow.
There you go.
That's pretty good.
And if you're
that
not
pretty much sums it up, eh?
It does. There's no doubt about it. That before we can spark any change or motivation. Look at that man in the mirror. We use that one again, Peter. Look at that man in the mirror.
I don't think so.
Look at the man in the mirror, and that's where change is going to come from. That's where encouragement is going to come from. That's where motivation is going to come from. Talk to yourself. Okay, get a you, and know, if you say, for example, you're teaching in class, know your subject, know your topic, and embody that. Embody that. Make it yours as a teacher. Take ownership of that. So that way it just comes out, oozes out of you. And then when they see that you care enough about this topic, you're motivated, you're excited about this topic.
Man, there's nothing more discouraging than having an unmotivated teacher.
Yeah. There's no doubt. Motivation
How many times do students walk out saying, you know what?
Yeah.
The teacher didn't even want to teach.
Yeah. It's, motivation, I'm just thinking, is maybe like honey, as a spoonful of sugar helps the medicine go down. Like, it helps it,
Have I ever told you I wanted to make my own honey farm?
Honey farm?
Yeah. I want my own honey farm. I want to make my own honey.
Well, to do what? To
just to
consume?
Give away, yeah.
Just to give away and consume?
Yeah, not really consume, but to give away.
Just so you can say, I made this honey.
I made this honey.
I love it. Why not, Peter? The problem is, Peter, I might be right beside you, mate. All right, Peter. The final quote. The final quote here on the law of encouragement. We're going to wrap it up from here.
Let's do it.
Many teachers go to work either partly prepared or wholly unprepared. They are like messengers without a message. They lack entirely the power and enthusiasm necessary to produce fruits, which we have a right to look for from their own efforts.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's that. That's the final quote. So you either many teachers go to their work partly prepared or wholly unprepared. Okay. They're like messengers without a message.
Wow. So true.
Yeah. So before we can head into a classroom, we really got to, really understand your topic. Understand that you have to be motivated, and know that motivated people become motivators and they become change agents. Peter.
My prayer is that just going through this book, we're bringing out the obvious.
Yep.
And bringing it to the surface so that we can just re-educate ourselves about what teaching is all about.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think, and we've said it before, I think there's some vital lessons in here and some vital reminders, that things that are highlighted to us. But that's it, Peter. The Law of Encouragement, chapter 6. And we've got our final chapter on the next one.
Where are we going to do that?
Mate, location.
Surprise?
TBA.
TBA.
There you go. The Law of Readiness. The Law of Readiness. I look forward to it, Peter.
Yeah, me too.
Thank you for this book review. My man.
Okay, boom.
Yeah.
Thanks.